And I'm telling you, this is not about a mindset issue. You can talk all day long about I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, abundant, abundant. Will not work because all of this is a neurobiological response. All brain areas. Full stop. What is the difference between prosperity and abundance? Prosperity is about creating resources, and abundance is about how the brain perceives these resources. You can be prosperous without feeling abundant, and you can feel abundant without being reckless, only when the brain is calibrated correctly. Abundance is not about having more. Abundance is about experiencing enough without threat. And we will talk about the threat part, the amygdala. As always, it comes back to amygdala. We'll talk about this in a second. Abundance is usually being framed as having more. More money, more opportunities, more options. But from a neuroscience perspective, abundance has very little to do with quantity, but has everything to do with perception. There are specific regions in the brain, we will talk about this in a second, that determines whether resources feel sufficient or scarce, whether the future feels open or restricted, and whether enough is even detectable. So today I want to explain to you these statements, I am abundant, what does it mean in the brain, and why abundance cannot be created by accumulation alone. So when people talk about abundance, it is often outward looking, right? More money, more abundance, more options. But again, as I mentioned, the brain doesn't measure abundance by quantity, but rather it measures abundance by threat, by predictability, we talked about these two before, and by perceived sufficiency. So the first two we talked about in the previous weeks, but also here we add the perceived sufficiency. That's what the abundance is also about. So the statement, I am abundant, is not a claim about what you have. It is, though, a claim about how your nervous system is interpreting what is available.
Welcome to my practical brain lab experiments on a calm, stable life.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Dr. Ayguen, and today we are talking about week 8 of week 52 in our neuro-hypersensitivity workbook. The statement, I am abundant. And what does it mean in our brain? What does it mean in our nervous system? And how can we actually create abundance by changing our brain? We will talk about the sections here in our brain, what an abundant brain is actually looking like. And also I give you the core assignments. So without further ado, let's get started. You will love this section. So now let's talk about the neuroscience of perception, not possession, aka I am abundant, right? I am abundant. What does the brain say when we hear and say the statement I am abundant? Are we actually abundant? Does the brain perceive abundance? Yeah, let's talk about this. So the first section is the brain state of abundance. Let's talk first about the neuroscience. What's going on in the brain regarding abundance? How does the brain interpret abundance, and also which regions in the brain are involved? So let's be clear. Abundance lives in the intersection between safety and perception. Again, safety, threat, right? We will talk about this in a second. It's all about the amygdala. We'll get to that. One key region, and if you notice, last week and the week before, when we talk about prosperity and we talk about success, these three statements have different regions that are particularly important. In this case, the insula plays a key role regarding abundance. The perception, that's again another important region in the brain. different than the last 2 weeks that we talked about. The insula tracks the internal states like needs, satisfaction, and bodily signals. If the insula is constantly signaling unmet needs, nothing will feel enough. Again, it all comes down to your brain, the interpretation of what's going on around you and how the brain's regions interpret your environment. And who creates the environment? You and your brain. That's it. Another important player here, the region, is the amygdala. Of course, it's the amygdala. It's always the amygdala. We keep talking, we're now in week 8, and we keep talking about the amygdala. It has to feel safe. The environment needs to feel safe. There shouldn't be any threat. Meaning, if you constantly feel, oh my God, I have to pay the bills, I don't have the money, the bill is coming up, the school or this kid's coming up, I don't know, the car insurance, the mortgage. If there is constant threat, then the amygdala again jacks up all your nervous system. And then what's happening is that you absolutely do not feel that you have enough, and most importantly, you don't feel abundant. Because again, the amygdala detects the threat and scarcity. In scarcity states, the amygdala narrows attention and biases perception toward loss. Then, of course, there is the prefrontal cortex, right? The prefrontal cortex. We will always talk about the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. That's where we have to create the logic, because the reasoning and the logic comes from the prefrontal cortex. And in this case, the prefrontal cortex contextualizes resources across time. We talked about the timing in the last 2 videos. Go back and watch those as well. So the prefrontal cortex helps to answer this question: is what I have likely to continue? That's it. And again, last 2 weeks, we talked about the continuation, right? The continuation was all about the continuation long term rather than short term. And the dopamine system, etc. was involved. But the long term is all about what the prefrontal cortex is registering. So here again, across time, what I have will it likely continue. That's it. Abundance emerges when, 1, the threat is low, right? The amygdala activity is low. Safety first, right? Always safety first. That's always biologically so, evolutionary so. 2, resources feel predictable. Of course, that reduces, again, also the threat and scarcity. And 3, the body can register the sufficiency. This is how abundance emerges in the brain. Without safety, abundance is literally invisible, even when the resources are objectively available. We've all been there, if you think about it. Now let's talk about section 2. Scarcity is a brain state, not a fact. Again, scarcity is a brain state, not a fact. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is so crucial to understand. So scarcity is not just about lack, but in fact, it is though about how the brain allocates attention under uncertainty. I say this again. Scarcity is not just about lack, but rather it is about how the brain allocates attention under uncertainty. The prefrontal cortex is, of course, involved. In the scarcity states, attention narrows. Time feels compressed. I don't have time. Risk tolerance shifts. Future thinking collapses. Again, we all been there. And I'm telling you, this is not about a mindset issue. You can talk all day long about I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, abundant, abundant. Will not work because all of this is a neurobiological response. All brain areas. Full stop. And here's a trap in your brain. Accumulating more resources without regulating the scarcity circuits in the brain doesn't create abundance. In fact, it often increases the fear of loss. So, I am abundant does not mean I will have more someday. It actually means my nervous system can detect enough now. That's the new circuit. That's the circuit that we have to create. The nervous system can detect enough now. No scarcity, no threat. The circuits allow us to detect, or the brain to detect, that there is enough now. Not someday in the future, but now. Do you see how all of this works together? Now then, let's talk about how abundance is actually built in the brain. An abundant brain does 3 things consistently. Again, if you want to develop your new circuits, you need to do your alignment or your assignments, your core assignments that we're talking about here, every single week consistently. Hence my creation of these worksheets so that you can actually every day work on these so that you can actually develop these circuits so that it can actually work, okay? This is how you can involve your brain and make your life happen, okay? So first, the abundant brain stabilizes basic needs. Stop. Period. Sleep, nutrition, rest, and predictable routines matter much more than affirmations or statements that we tell to ourselves. These are the basic needs, stability in our brain. That again comes down to safety first. Full stop. Second, the abundant brain widens attention. What does that mean? It means that abundance requires the ability to detect multiple options, not just threats. And this is the function of the prefrontal cortex, to detect the options available now, not in the future, now. And third, it practices sufficiency detection. The brain must be trained to register when the needs are met. Otherwise, it will keep searching for the needs to be met. So this means that abundance is not complacency. It is, though, accurate perception. Accurate perception. Never forget that. This brings us to, and if you like it so far, hit the like button, share this with your friends and family, help us together bring the public, bring the people in this world to a more abundant state by training our brain. This will help us to feel safe and to see the opportunities, sufficiency in the moment, so that we can use all these 3 brain areas, regions, to develop new circuits, and so that we can feel abundant in the circumstances that we have. Again, has nothing to do sugarcoating, has nothing to do that we are on rose-colored glasses. It is actually all 3 brain functions, brain regions working together and making it happen. So go back and watch it to really observe what I said. So now this brings me to our core assignment for the week. Training abundance perception. Again, it's about perception of the resources available to us now. So what I have for you is the worksheet that's called the Sufficiency Check. All the audits and protocols, again, I have now accumulated a list of those. You can get all of this, or you can get it as a bundle, okay? So let me know which one of these are really helpful for you, or which you really are struggling in your life, which areas of your life, so that we can work together, okay? So the Sufficiency Check. What I want you to do, again, download your worksheets. This week, I want you to do the following. Once a day, pause and ask these 3 questions. And I have again the sheet for every single day for the entire week, okay? First question, what resource did I use today that worked? That's it. Again, it's all about calming the amygdala to feel there's no threat. And I told you, it is horrible if you have the threat in your neck. You constantly feel you have to do this and that, and everybody's on your neck. The bills are piling up, but that blocks you. For me, 100%, it blocks me. I can't function. Not because I cannot function in a way that there's deadline. I can thrive with that. That's not what it is. If everybody's on my neck, it just literally blocks you, hinders you to think about options or what I have available. Because there's people constantly, or the situation's constant on your neck. So you need to, I personally always feel that I need to feel really calm and safe, and my brain eases, and then I'm like, whoa, option 1, A, B, C, D. That's what we need. The amygdala must be calmed down first so that we can recognize the resources available for us today in the moment, so that we can actually work on whatever we need to work on, and then we see the results of it. The second question I want you to ask is, what need was met adequately? Not perfectly, just adequately. And the third, and this is important for the prefrontal cortex, what is likely to continue tomorrow? The continuation, right? We talked about this last week and the week before with success and with prosperity. What is likely to continue tomorrow? These are your core assignments every single day. Please ask these questions to yourself. Write 1 sentence answering each of these questions every single day. What these questions and answers do to your brain is that it trains the insula and the prefrontal cortex to detect stability, so important for the amygdala, right? To detect stability instead of defaulting into lack. Very critical. So if we wrap this up, we can say that I am abundant statement does not mean you stop growing. What it actually means is that my brain can recognize enough without panic. So important. And abundance is not about accumulation. Abundance is perception regulated by safety. And perception, here's the trick, can be trained. So good. We will be rewarded, we will be awarded something. This can be a lot of things. Please let me know in the comments. I cannot believe this. This is so beautiful. Literally, abundance. As you can see, abundance can be a lot of things. How our brain perceives the resources and the sufficiency without scarcity. And this is exactly how you can really feel this, and you can see it by looking at me, how excited I am. This is literally, I'm feeling so abundant right now because this is a resource I know I have, in my pocket. I have my brain, I have my knowledge, I have my skills, I have my words I can speak, and we can make our reality happen. Watch 100% the new chapter video. I link it down below. Get your core assignment worksheet, get your neuro-hypersensitivity workbook, interpret this for yourself. Write down in the comments what is happening this week. I want to know. You let me know. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week. You cannot believe what we're covering next week. See you in the next video. Bye bye.
You're okay.